Hey guys, welcome back to another episode of At the Pump. I'm Patrick, sitting here with my beautiful wife, Teresa O'Hara. Hello.
Hi, everyone. I can't believe you have me on here.
I know. It's unbelievable. I had to trade like 3 weeks of yard work and picking up dog shit to get my wife on here, but we finally got it, so I'm super excited.
Yay. Happy to be here. I am definitely not. It's kind of funny that you have me on right now because I'm definitely not your typical car enthusiast, if a car enthusiast at all. But here I am, and I guess before everybody tunes away from this
channel. Don't cancel
out
of the episode yet.
Just not yet. I do have a little bit of experience in that I actually worked with you, and I was a brand manager for Aston Martin for just over 2 years until very recently. So you and I worked together in selling cars, selling all the high-end cars. So Aston Martin, Rolls-Royce, Bentley, Lamborghini, Ferrari, etc. So super fun 2 years, but a little, I guess, unique transition into that as coming into the car business.
Yeah.
I hardly knew anything about cars. Really, everything I know about cars is from you.
Sure. And here, what's funny too is people will probably try to like look at this and be like, how does a husband and wife work together? I get that all the time.
Yeah.
So it was so easy. Like, it was the easiest thing for us. We enjoyed it. Like, I don't know. I heard horror stories. People were like, oh my God, how do you spend all day with your wife and come home? And, you know, it was actually pretty easy. It was a lot of fun.
Yeah. No, it was super fun. We were actually right next to each other in two different showrooms, but only a wall separating. So yeah, that was super fun. And, I guess they keep us there so long, you know, it's long hours in the car business.
Yeah.
So you hardly got too much time out of there to really spend together. So no, but it was super fun. Now doing something else kind of because of that. I know you and Brian, you talked about in one of your episodes too. It is just long hours, it's weekends, holidays, etc. So I was looking for something a little different.
Sure. So give us your transition.
Well, I guess to take it kind of a step further back, I'm originally from Denmark, if you haven't caught the accent yet. And growing up in Denmark, the car scene is, I can't even tell you how different it is.
Is there one?
Yeah.
Is there one?
Hardly.
Hey, look at my hybrid. It's very cool.
I know. Don't poke too much fun. But no, reason being is cars are crazy expensive.
Yeah.
Like, I think, and I don't know the exact math here, but I think a third of the car, like what is is actually the car you're paying for. It's another like 200% in taxes and fees, etc. So, I mean, when my dad comes over here and saw like we had the Audi, he's like, "Are you out of your mind? Like that would be, you know, like 200,000."
That's like a scooter back in Denmark.
Oh my, no, it's like it's just amazing because it's like you can't buy that over there for that kind of money that you can here, just because of our taxes and fees. Let alone that the gas price is like it's like 4 times probably. So everybody, I mean, is in little like Honda Jazz and like just tiny cars.
And everything is manual transmission for the most part, right? Like automatic is kind of like a luxury thing for people to do. See, that's so weird.
Well, also because it's so expensive, like, or to get an automatic, it's almost like you're at a certain level.
There's like a premium for it.
Yes, because that, I don't even know how many like thousands extra that is. But when you then add like another 200-300% on top of the price for everything, it just becomes a little out of reach. So, but anyway, so a completely different car community in Denmark. I never really saw people doing stuff to their cars, like wheels, tires, like kind of trick them up like you do. So, I mean, and the amount of stuff I need to hear from you as to what you're doing to your car and what's going on.
I put my salesman cap every time I need to either get a new car or get something for it. I mean, this poor girl has heard so many things, and I'm surprised she's still here. But what's been your favorite excuse?
I let you have your fun.
Yeah, exactly. What's been your favorite Pat moment of trying to sell you on a water meth kit? Oh, it helps fuel economy.
Well, that is it. Like fuel economy. Every damn time it's something about like, no, because I'm going to be saving money. Like, no, you're not, because you're going to drive it harder. And like, yeah, there's no money saved, but you know how to appeal to me. So, but you know what? It's fine. I let you have your fun. So it's good. You
Yeah.
enjoy it. And honestly, and my first car, like coming to America, again, it's just the sensible gas mileage, efficiency, get it like a half year pre-owned. I had a 2007 Toyota Corolla for about 8 years. I loved it. I thought it was great.
And it was missing a hubcap.
No, well, that was because my brother borrowed it and drove it somewhere strange, and I don't know, it came back with a missing hubcap. But no, and I'm actually surprised that we even started dating, you knowing that that's the car
Well,
I drove.
I didn't know that until
That's
later
true.
down the road.
Yeah, fair point.
I had my Pontiac G8, and I came to pick you up at your apartment for like our first. Was it our first date?
Yeah,
It was. We went to Benihana, by the way. Amazing. I take all
Yep.
my first dates to Benihana.
Oh, okay.
If they're all
I
listening.
see, yeah.
Yeah, I remember that. I saw that car, and I was like, I almost didn't even put it in park. I almost just dropped a gear and disappeared, and I was just left.
I know.
No, I'm joking. But
No, and you know what? I would have kept that car if it wasn't for you. That were just too embarrassed to be seen in it. So you're like, okay, you had to get me out of it.
let's picture this. So it's a '07, right? '07 Toyota Corolla.
Awesome.
It's like Dijon mustard.
It was gold. It was
Sure,
gold. Okay,
yeah,
that
call
sounds
it
better.
gold. With with like light beige interior cloth.
It was great.
It got you
Okay.
from A to B. That's all that
Exactly,
mattered.
and that's what cars they've always been that
Don't
for
insult
me.
the people here, too.
I know, I'm sorry, but that's like growing up. It was just from A to B, and yeah, I thought it was a great car. And I remember us being like going to in Denmark, and you heard my dad's Volvo drive up a ramp, and I didn't even know, but you're like, holy cow, he has a turbo on that.
Her dad had a manual transmission Volvo, I want to say V70R or V60R.
Yeah, see, I wouldn't know.
Again, I don't know my Volvos that well, but it was the very squared off wagon that they used to race, and we're in a parking garage, and I heard this noise. I'm like, I hear this like, I'm like, what is that? And sure as shit, her dad comes right around the corner in a wagon Volvo that's turboed, and it's like, it was a cool car. I'd love to have one of those.
I know, and
Hope your dad's listening.
I know, and he always drove it like a maniac too. Well, and so okay, from my dad's station wagon, I guess back on topic a little bit here with the Aston Martin that I know that you kind of want to discuss, since you know you and I both have kind of a lot of experience with that brand. So my entry into the car business, a little unique, a little different in the sense I, after college, I came over to the U.S. on a golf scholarship and then turned professional and played professionally for 5 years and had to go back to re-qualify for the LPGA. So at that point, time to settle down a little bit and get a more normal life.
I mean, you were traveling for more than half the year.
Yeah, no, it was crazy. Great experience. Traveled all over the world to some of the most amazing courses, but kind of left golf behind and then got an awesome opportunity with representing Aston Martin and be the brand manager for Aston Martin, which I never in a million years would have thought that I would be in car sales.
Right.
But kind of the funny part about that, Aston Martin is very big in Europe, I would say, and very like high brand recognition, being UK and then translate to the rest of Europe. And I remember, when you were a young kid and you had to like create like, I don't know, vision boards or where did you see yourself? I remember my brother both, and then anything my older brother did, it was like the best it could be. So he had an Aston Martin Vanquish as his screensaver on his computer. And it was always, and had always, and in a way I guess still is, but an Aston Martin, if you ever get an Aston Martin, you have made it in life.
Yeah.
You're like, that is the pinnacle of like luxury. I've learned a little bit since, but in a way, it's so funny that I grew up with that and being a big fan of Aston Martin, James Bond, and then I happened to land in this position of managing the brand Aston Martin.
Which is strange because that's not the normal transition for anybody that's looking to get into the car business. I know in a previous video we talked about that, and there's so many avenues that you can get into the car business. There's no direct path, but to jump from playing golf for a living, retiring, and moving into a brand like Aston Martin, that's a pretty unique, scenario. Yeah.
Oh, completely. And it wasn't necessarily something I was looking for, which may be why it ended up so well, because I mean, I didn't hardly knew a V8 from a V12 or what that meant in a way. But that's kind of the relationship business. And I loved it for that. It was, great clients you got to interact with and build those relationship with. So I really enjoyed that part. But yeah, awesome brand. And I think 3 months into the job, they shipped me off to Spain, where I drove the new Vantage at the time. Well, still new, but around an F1 track in Bilbao, Spain. Like insane experience.
I was so jealous.
Yeah.
I mean, she's like, God, do I really have to go? Like, it's like Spain's cool, but cars. I'm like, I'm pissed. I'm like, why can't I go? This is a dream to be on an F1 track. And you were not only with the Vantage, they were comparing its competitors at the time.
Well, yeah.
So 911, Carrera. What else did you have there?
The Mercedes GTS.
Okay. You're just having a couple days on the racetrack.
I know. No, it was awesome. Learning all about the car, the brand, etc. That was an amazing experience. And can I just throw it out there? I absolutely love the Vantage. It is such an amazing car.
It is.
And it's so underrated and kind of not that well known, and has obviously stiff competition. Like, I know you're the biggest Porsche fan, so you're hard to ever, get off that track. And I think most Porsche people are. It's kind of competing with that, but it's such an amazing car. It feels amazing, the driving experience. So, my non-car background just thinks that that's an awesome car.
Sure. And Aston Martin has such a unique market share in the automotive world. So it's really one of the only, if not the only, automotive manufacturer that's essentially by themselves. They're not owned by a larger automotive group. They're not owned by your big hitters like Volkswagen or BMW or anything like that. So Aston has struggled a little bit over the years to really try to grow and get more traction for the brand. I would say the biggest change for Aston Martin was 2017. That was a complete rebrand for Aston Martin. That was also a part of when Mercedes came over and took a small share in Aston Martin and started to use all of their electronics. So what Aston always struggled with is they were always so focused on design quality, paint, the luxury experience, the driving experience. Technology was on the bottom of their list. They did not care. So over the years, that really kind of caught up to them because they were falling so far behind. I mean, they didn't really even have navigation. They didn't have anything. It was just...
They had it, but it was very bad.
Yeah, it was literally like a little Garmin screen, like the size of an iPhone 5.
Pretty much.
Horrible.
Worse.
Yeah, worse. So 2017, they completely rebranded everything. That's when what was formerly known as a DB9 became DB11. And the DB11 was the car that Aston released in 2017 and said, hey, here's our new direction. Here's our new car. Here's where Aston Martin's going in the future.
And that's before I got hired on for that position. Then you went and test drove the DB11 all up in the mountains, right?
Yeah. So when DB11 came out, DB11 replaced DB9 as like their standard size GT car. And Aston sent me, before Therese was working with us, Aston sent me out to California, and we had a 2-3 day training on the DB11. And at that point, they actually had the Vantage there to show us before it was available to the public to see. But God, we had a blast. We spent a full day. I think we put 400 miles on the car. They closed down a place called Palomar Mountain in California. And it was so cool because there's about 12 of us, each had our own car. And we were just ripping up and down this mountain all day. We'd rip all the way to the top, have lunch, come down, eat again, go all the way back up, come down. And it was awesome. I did crack a windshield on a DB11. I did. Yeah.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Essentially, the guy in front of me, maybe I was a little bit too close, but we were doing some serious so-called spirited driving with that car. So
it's
it
hard
was
not to, though.
No, and they encouraged it too.
It's impossible
right?
not to.
So I thought, hey, if I can leave a little mark on this car and shatter a windshield, cool.
Sure.
We still haven't got that bill yet, but that's good at the dealership. But Aston has really tried to make a difference. So DB11 came out in 2017, and the car is stunning. The new design is beautiful. It's got that very Aston Martin look. The front is very long. It's got a huge front to the car, real wide, real sinister looking. But then with Mercedes coming over and providing all the electronics, they'll let Aston do what they're good at, which is design and the quality and the stitching. And it's not so much what they do, it's how they do it. But then let a company like Mercedes that has all the money in the world to provide some of their electronics.
Yeah.
So with that, now we're starting to see the Aston Martin line grow. It was DB11. And then in 2019, the new Vantage came out. So that is a complete change too, compared to the previous generation.
And a big departure in terms of design. It's way more aggressive looking, super low grille that it's gotten some flack from or for in a sense, but I think it's really cool. It's they're trying to appeal to a different buyer group with a little bit more aggressive style than versus the just elegant. But I think nobody can dispute that Aston Martin has just always had the most amazing design and designed the most beautiful cars. Like they have quirks, like you mentioned too, and like the history, like financially, even though it's kind of cool, I guess they're on their own, but it's also kind of a drawback.
Absolutely.
They do not they don't have the money, I guess you should say, for all the maybe quality control or, to back the brand. And in terms of technology now, they're caught up a little bit, which is good, but they always put such an emphasis, and I think they're struggling with that in terms of bringing it to the US, that they have such a big racing heritage.
Right.
But and they they love their history, and like for example the Aston Martin wings is this jewelry company that's 100 years old that makes them by hand, and it's an amazing story. But at the end of the day, the American buyers don't care. If the car is not great or perfect on all levels, you can tell me as many things about that handmade emblem, but who cares?
Sure. With the new Vantage too, Mercedes is now playing around with bringing some of their motor platforms over as well, which is a huge change, right? I mean, Aston's been doing this forever. So Mercedes is starting, I think, to, obviously get more and more market share of Aston Martin. And who knows, I bet Mercedes will own the company at some point. That's just my guess.
Yeah.
But
maybe
the Vantage now, we have Mercedes electronics. Now we have Mercedes V8 twin turbo motor, which is out of their C63 and some of their other platforms, the 4-liter twin turbo V8. So in very Aston Martin fashion, they put that motor in there. But AMGs have such a unique sound. They have this like deep rumble. It's an AMG when you hear one. So Aston Martin even went in and changed the timing sequence around a little bit, so it doesn't sound like it was just a plug and play. And Aston still has some other bits in there that they're doing in design and things like that. But, the new Vantage is awesome. And they really, when they brought that car out in 2019, they really marketed it against the 911 Turbo. So that's a bold move, because we talked about this earlier. Mm-hmm. Porsche is one of the biggest cult followings as far as, cars go. You have Porsche, Ferrari's kind of the same thing. So for a company like Aston Martin to kind of go after Porsche, where Porsche customers, they kind of get one and they just keep staying with the brand. So I think Aston is doing a good job with their new design there. I think it's a sick car. It is so fun to drive. And that kind of leads into their new car now, which just came out last year, is the new Aston Martin DBS Superleggera. Mm-hmm. Now that car replaced what was formerly known as Vanquish, which ended production in 2017. The DBS might be one of the best looking cars I think I've ever seen.
Oh my God. Amazing. And I thought I'd never seen anything more stunning than the Vanquish. I mean, it's the Vanquish. I will always be absolutely jaw dropping, but the DBS is sick. It's so cool. It looks amazing. And then, speak of experiences, and I mean, you spoke to it. I got to drive the Vantage in Spain. You were driving in California, the DB11. Last September, I ended up going to the factory, and we went to Millbrook, which is a big kind of testing site in England for a ton of manufacturers go there to test their cars. So again, spent a ton of time in all the different cars, and they had this kind of side note, but they had this super cool, I don't know what you call it, like a dome almost.
This is where they go around, right?
Yeah. And
the big bank turns,
exactly.
Like a big oval.
No, and it was crazy. And then going up on the side, and I don't remember the miles per hour, but maybe 90 or something. So not crazy, but no, it's fast. It's fast. And then the instructor next to me is like, okay, well, you can let go of your hands now, let go of the steering wheel. And it kind of, oh God, it took some convincing to do to let go, but it's crazy. And you're kept on that bank going 90 miles an hour or whatever.
Was that in the DBS?
In a DBS, yeah. No, it was sick. Yeah, absolutely crazy. No, love that car. That's tough to beat.
That's their Halo car, right?
Yeah.
It's their black label car for Aston Martin. So that is, a competitor against maybe a Ferrari F12, an A12 Superfast, something like that. It's a big twin turbo V12, 715 horsepower.
And I also think that's in a way where Aston Martin struggles. Like in America, if you're that price range, because they're about 300, the Volante 350 can easily go higher.
Volante, for those that don't know, is Aston Martin's fancy word for convertible.
Yeah, you got to be different, I guess.
Okay.
So, and to confuse even more, for the Vantage, it's Roadster, but for all the other cars, it's Volante. But I guess it's like Lamborghini is,
The Spider.
Yeah, Spider and Roadster. I don't know. They all gotta make up their own little fancy things. But yeah, so that's the price range. And when you're looking at north of 300,000, you're bringing in a lot of really cool options.
Oh, of course.
And I think in America versus like, growing up in Europe, Aston Martin, then you've made it. I think for the American crowd, it's more Ferrari. And undeniably, they're absolutely stunning and amazing cars. So I think they're struggling with that in terms of pricing of their cars and what they're competing against.
Sure.
Because even though, like you say, they have good technology now, it is still the older version of Mercedes technology.
It's not their newer stuff. I mean, Mercedes is smart enough not to give them, hey, here's our 2020 technology. It is some models back. But what we're hoping that will maybe help bring some awareness into this brand is the release of their SUV.
Yeah.
So Aston Martin is doing their SUV called the DBX. And, some might say it's a little late to the game since, we've seen SUVs being out for many, many years, but we're still hoping that might be the saving grace for the brand.
Yeah. And and they'll always be, the ones, who thinks it's a shame. Like, why are they, succumbing to the level of coming out with an SUV? It's a sports car brand. However, like reality is that's where the money is.
Well, look at the,
like for manufacturers, that's their bread and butter now.
Bentayga, when that car came out in 2017, we've sold, just at our dealership alone, I think we sold over 185 of them.
Yeah.
Lamborghini Urus came out. We still, to this day, are 4 to 6 months out on getting one of those cars.
Yeah.
The
demand is just crazy and you're bringing in a whole new sector of people that never would consider, for example, a Lamborghini or maybe a Bentley, in terms of the Bentayga that now can come into the brand. Just the same for Aston Martin. And I got to see that and preview the DBX in person. It's really well done. I think it's cool. I think it's good design, but the interior is very spacious, very luxurious. So I hope they knock it out of the park with them. And at the dealership, we would always have little things, ever so often a little check engine light would come on in an Aston just because their sensors might be a little off and whatnot. There are the little quirks with the cars, but I love them and I so root for them to do well. I
think one of the coolest draws to the brand of Aston Martin is that you just don't see them on the road. Mm-hmm. I think that's awesome. I mean, as a Porsche enthusiast, you'll see Porsches at every streetlight.
Yeah.
How often do you see an Aston Martin? So I think that's the cool part. I mean, these cars are still put together by hand. They're built by hand. Porsche is not a high production company by any means, but they'll make approximately
in comparison
400 Porsches to one Aston Martin.
Yeah.
So I think, with a lot of the clients that we have, we talk about this at Aston, that's a draw to the brand is that exclusivity of maybe not by price point of exclusivity. It's just that the rarity of seeing another one.
Yeah. 100%. And then if you're in a position, you almost talked me into it at one point when they had this kind of employee deal.
I'm still kicking myself. We should have done that. We should have just got 2 and called it a day. One for me and one for the dog.
Thought, I'd like a house to live in too. But you'd be surprised, I think, at some of the lease numbers for these cars too, especially like at one point they wanted awareness and they wanted the Vantage to hit the market. Like some of the lease prices or offers they came out with were silly.
Some of the prices were literally equivalent, of an Aston Martin Vantage. Let's just use a rough price point of like $185,000.
Yeah, that's where they come in with options. They start
that's
at
about where we sell them. But the lease was equivalent of, no joke, like in a $100,000 car.
Yeah.
Or maybe even less. So the lease program was so good, and I can commend Aston for doing that, because most manufacturers, when they get a new car that comes out, their leases are terrible. They know people are going to buy them. There's no reason for them to incentivize people to do it. Aston was really smart with that and said, you know what? We want to get awareness to the brand. Let's get this car out. Let's shotgun it out with a hell of a lease. And they did a great job. So we should have one in our garage right now, but we don't.
Yeah. Maybe
okay.
one day.
Yeah.
One day when we're rich and famous. So. Well, I mean, it's an awesome brand. I love them. I root for them. I can't believe you got me talking so much here. I mean, now you invited me on. I can't shut up, but no, it's been fun. So fun to be part of your little podcast.
No, I appreciate you coming on here. We wanted to, you've had a really interesting career with not only playing golf for a living, but then moving into being a brand manager for, a luxury brand. So, guys, thank you so much for watching. We really appreciate it. If you guys like this kind of content, please like and hit that little subscribe button below. That helps us keep buying car parts. But
hey, I heard that.
But guys, thank you so much. We enjoyed this, and thanks to my beautiful wife for being here. Catch you guys in the next episode. Thanks.